Sniffany, please. Not today. I'm pretty sure the people who lived in Oscarville, which was drowned out by Lake Lanier, said this. I'm pretty sure the people who lived in Seneca Village, which is now Central Park, said this. The people who live in Tulsa, Oklahoma, who survived the massacre, say this. People in Brooklyn say this. Native Americans say this. Black Americans, South Africans, Haitians, black people all over the fucking world say this. Hawaiians say this. Puerto Ricans say this. Palestinians say this. Even the fucking deer. Well, she did more than say. She fucking shut up. Not only is it neighborhoods, it's towns, it's cities, it's islands, it's forest creatures, it's countries, it's the entire world holding your hand with a napkin and soap in between since you had to be taught how to properly wash when we say this. The issue isn't that it's not being said. The issue is you're not listening because you're too busy coming in to kill, steal, and destroy. And it doesn't even stop there. Because after you finish taking over people's literal land, homes, schools, businesses, whatever you can get your disease-infested hands on, you move over to their culture. And then you try to justify that by saying, oh, cultures are meant to be shared. What culture are you sharing? The Christopher Christina Columbus Lopez gene? Like, nobody wants that shit. Y'all have no culture. Literally, your only culture is stealing. And that's why when it comes to other people's cultures, you always appropriate and never appreciate. You can't understand other people wanting to handle their spaces and culture with care because your only culture is to not care. It's just hair to you because your people never had to braid rice and seeds into their hair to survive or braid maps in their hair to escape to freedom. Everyone is screaming at you to leave us alone, but all your privilege allows you to hear is white noise.
Hey, Shalom, it's your brother Yonathan. All right, first and foremost, I want to give all praises to the Most High, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rakah HaKodash. I want to give double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone. I want to say Shalom to all the brothers and, of course, the few sisters who are pursuing this truth and sincerity. All right, may the blessing of election be upon your house. Okay? Just wanted to do this quick lesson. I'm going to entitle it the Land Stealers, or the Cancer of the Earth. One of the two. The so-called white man, the Edomites, primarily the small hats, they have this idea as to where they're a benefit unto the earth and the dwelling thereof, when it's in fact the opposite. Okay, and the scriptures say this. The Lord created an antagonist for his movie. He created a bad guy, all right, for how he wanted things to play out. And us knowing what we know, we have to be able to identify the enemy and to put on the full armor of God so that we could be protected or know how to navigate the attacks towards the elect of the nation of Israel, because that's what the Lord is dealing with. And we're a part of that number. Okay, so the first precept I want to get, I'm going to go to Ezekiel, the 36th chapter, and I'm going to get straight to it, the 5th verse. Because there's so many clues, all right, so that you can identify who's who in the Lord's movie. Okay, before the Lord returns, before he establishes his kingdom upon the face of the earth, there's going to be a people who have appointed the Holy Land that he gave the family of Israel. They've appointed that land into their own hands. Okay, so this is Ezekiel 36:5. It says, therefore thus saith the Lord God, surely in the fire of my jealousy have I spoken against the residue of the heathen and against all Idumea. Okay, and Idumea is simply the Greek way of saying Edom. Okay, it says, which have appointed my land. Okay, the Edomites have appointed the Lord's promised land. All right, appointed my land into their possession with the joy of all their heart, with despiteful minds to cast it out for a prey. Okay, so the Edomites have appointed the Holy Land into their hands. Also, when you go to Isaiah, and let's get that really quick. Isaiah 26:10 goes on to say, let favor be shewed to the wicked. All right, there's a people in the scriptures who are called the wicked. The same people who are called the most proud, I believe in Jeremiah 50, or is it 49? They're called the most proud. Same people, the Edomites, the nemesis of Jacob. All right, Isaiah 26:10 again from the top. Let favor be shewed to the wicked, yet will he not learn righteousness in the land of uprightness. The land of uprightness is of course, the Holy Land. In the land of uprightness will he deal unjustly and will not behold the majesty of the Lord. Okay, I got a precept to go with this as well. Let's go to Psalms 50:16. But unto the wicked God saith, what hast thou to do to declare my statutes? They've taken upon themselves to say that they are the people. All right, but they're perverse and they don't uphold the standard that the Lord even gave us, although they're not the people. But unto the wicked God saith, what hast thou to do to declare my statutes, or that thou shouldest taketh my covenant in thy mouth? Okay, you also can go to Jeremiah 13:23. It says, can the Ethiopian change his skin, or the leopard his spots? Then may ye also do good that are accustomed to do evil. All right. And there was a people upon the face of the earth who were created to do evil. And that's not something they can change or that we can change, because majority of our people, in their mind, they think, oh, the white man's different. He can change. We could all come together. No, he was created to do a particular job, and that was to be the wicked. And you go to Proverbs 4:16 to prove that. Okay, let's go there. 4:16. Oh, no, it's 16:4. But I'll read 4:16 as well. It's Proverbs 4:16. It says, for they sleep not except they have done mischief, and their sleep is taken away unless they cause some to fall. There's a people who their purpose, the inner workings of this man is to forward wickedness in the earth. All right, Proverbs 16:4 now. Okay, it's Proverbs 16:4. It reads, the Lord hath made all things for himself, yeah, even the wicked for the day of evil. So they have a part in the Lord's movie, and it's to be the bad guy. Now, we read Ezekiel 36. Okay, let's go to Luke 21:24 just to connect something with that. When you go to Luke 21, verse 24, it says, actually, I'll start at 23 because it's talking about us being casted out of the Holy Land. Luke 21:23. But woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days, for there should be a great distress in the land, and wrath upon this people. In 70 AD, there was great distress upon the land when the Romans sieged Jerusalem. Our people resorted to cannibalism. There was a lot of death and suffering that took place. Our people were carted off, many of them killed, but many of them, before the attack even happened, fled into the inner workings of what's called Africa today, and eventually got to, the west coast of Africa, where they were taken into captivity and up to the Americas. Okay, verse 23 again from the top, Luke 21:23. But woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days, for there shall be great distress in the land, and wrath upon this people, and they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and shall be led away captive into all nations. So the nation of Israel has been scattered into every nation. Now, America is where all 12 tribes will be oppressed together. So when you see that 12 tribe sign, it's a roundabout of, this is the final place, this is our final captivity. But we have Israelites that are scattered into every nation under heaven, and they're going to look like those nations a lot of the times. All right, of course, the bulk of the nation is going to look like the so-called Black, Latino, and Native American. But this has never been a thing of complexion. And here at Great Millstone, we've always taught that. Okay? But a lot of people, they come across the Hebrew Israelites, so they run into other camps, and that's not expounded upon in detail how lineage works. So a lot of people think this is a color thing, and that's all they chalk it up to, when it's much bigger than that. All right? So Luke 21:24 again. And they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and they shall be led away captive into all nations, and Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles. And this is talking about the actual heathen, the Goyim. Okay? But here, when you look up that word, G1484, they put ethnos, right? And ethnos means a tribe or a nation or a people group. Okay? But the Gentiles that are trotting down the nation of Israel today are not the people group or the ethnos. that was given that land. Okay, until the times it says, in Jerusalem shall be trodden down the Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled. Okay, and when you look up ethnos too, it also tells you that it's especially a foreign non-Jewish, which Jewish non-Jew, one usually by implication pagan, Gentile, heathen nation people group. All right, so here it's talking about actually another nation outside of the chosen people. Now you have instances like in John 7:35 when it's talking about, whither will he go that we shall not find him? Will he go unto the dispersed among the Gentiles and teach the Gentiles? There's Israelites that are called Gentiles, all right, because they grew up in those heathen customs, but by blood and by spirit, they go back to Jacob. Okay? So here in Luke 21:24, it's telling you that the Holy Land will be occupied by foreigners, not Israelite foreigners, but straight up heathen, until the times, meaning the age of the rulership of the other nations, be fulfilled. So when the Lord returns, that's when we'll occupy the Holy Land as a family again. Okay? So I wanted to connect those two for you. Now, 2 Ezra 15:6 says this. All right, it says, for wickedness hath exceedingly polluted the whole earth, and their hurtful works are fulfilled. Okay, so going into, actually I'll start at the top of his this here, 2 Ezra 15:1, because we're leading up to this time where, man, this devil's gonna, his time is gonna be up to forward his will on the earth, because his will on the earth only leads to death. And if it wasn't halted, as it says in Matthew, no flesh would be saved. Okay, so 2 Ezra 15:1, behold, speak thou in the ears of my people the words of prophecy. And prophecy is very important when it comes to the Bible. It's what separates the scriptures from any other philosophy or train of thought. All right, because we actually can tell you in detail how the future is going to pan out. No other book can do that. It doesn't even come close. All right. Behold, speak thou in the ears of my people the words of prophecy, which is the spirit of Yahushua, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus. Read Revelation 19:10. Which I will put in thy mouth, saith the Lord, and cause them to be written in paper, for they are faithful and true. Fear not the imaginations, or the unbelief, against thee. Let not the incredulity of them trouble thee that speak against thee. For all the unfaithful shall die in their unfaithfulness. So there's people who, just won't get this. And their end is going to be death. And there's not anything we can do to change that, the same way we can't change who Esau Edom is. Okay? They have a destiny. 2/3 of our people, they have a destiny. Now, the beautiful thing about this truth is, majority of the people your loved ones, they're not going to get this thing and they're going to die, but you understand how life and death works, and you understand it's not final, which emboldens you and allows you to move with a different kind of confidence when you understand how the life and death actually works, pursuant to the scriptures. And that's a lesson for another day, or I might do it later today, who knows. Okay? 2 Ezra 15:5. Behold, saith the Lord, I will bring plagues upon the world, the sword, famine, death, and destruction. For the wickedness hath exceedingly polluted the whole earth, and their hurtful works are fulfilled. Okay, now the people ruling are allowing evil to be forwarded. Okay, and especially even when the Greeks came on the scene, which were also Edomites. All right, the original Greeks were brown people, but a Japhetic people, but like it talks about in Micah 2, and we'll go get that. This man is taking over people's heritage, and starts calling himself the name of the people of the land that he took over. In Chinese folklore, they have a monster called the face stealer, is what it translates to into the English. And when you look up images of this demon-like figure of the face stealer is in Chinese folklore, it looks like a small hat, and that's by no coincidence. Evil increased. Let me see here. Evils were increased upon the earth. Yeah, 2 Ezra 14. 17. Nah, it's another one, I believe. So like it wasn't in Esdras, it's in First Maccabees. So First Maccabees 1 and 9 is talking about, after the death of Alexander the Greek. He had 4 generals, and they took over his territories, and they fought between each other. But the scriptures say that evils were multiplied upon the earth when these people really got a grip on having dominion. All right, this is First Maccabees 1 and 9. It says, and after his death, they all put crowns upon themselves. So did their sons after them many years, and evils were multiplied in the earth. Okay, and the one that was ruling over our region, because that's what the scriptures is about, is giving you world history and future events that's going to happen from the perspective of the family of the heavens, from the Lord's perspective. Okay, this is the true history when you go into the scriptures. All right, it says, and after his death, after Alexander the Greek's death, his 4 generals, they all put crowns upon themselves. So did their sons after them many years, and evils were multiplied upon the earth. So since this man has been in rulership, the earth has been in a steep decline. The mindset and the bodies and just the spiritual wherewithal of people has been on a steep decline, especially our people, because he knows he has to keep us in a downtrodden state to keep grips on his kingdom. Okay, so that's why in the days to come, he's going to really roll heavy on the nation of Israel, man. And we're trying to warn our people, but only the elect are going to get it and be fortified in the spirit. Okay, now we read that. I want to go to, I mentioned Micah 2, so let's go there real quick. It's Micah 2:1. It says, woe unto them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. Okay, when the morning is light, they practice it, because it is in the power of their hand, and they covet fields. Now, as we read verse 2 here, I want you to think of reading this precept as though all the nations are lined up. And by the actions that are read, I want you to narrow down, out of all the nations, who this description fits. And it's clear who it is. This is the Christians. They don't identify, this man who's spoken to forward the will of Satan. Well, Satan is doing what the Lord commanded him to do before its left-handed energy in the earth. They don't address who that man is in 2 Thessalonians 2:9. All right, it's Micah 2:2. It says, and they covet fields and take them by violence. Whose blessing was the sword? And take them by violence, and houses and take them away. So they oppress a man and his house, even a man and his heritage. There are many nations that have conquered people, took over territories. But when it talks about a heritage being oppressed, that begins to get exclusive to a sole people group, all right, which are the Edomites. When you talk about the Renaissance period, or let's just say iconoclasm, what nation of people have done something equivalent to iconoclasm? They might take over people, but it's not just a common occurrence where the history, the language is erased. They go destroying the artifacts, destroying their text. That's exclusive to the so-called white man, So again, Micah 2:2, and they covet fields and take them by violence, and houses and take them away. So they oppress a man in his house, even a man and his heritage. And let's combine that with this. Let's combine that with Psalms 49:11. Their inward thought is that their houses shall continue forever. And you look at Yuval Harari, Carl Schwab, and all these guys and these tech guys. They're talking about immortality and continuing on. But their inward thought is that they're always going to have dominion over the earth the way that they do. And they want to forward it in an even deeper sense. Their inward thought is that their houses shall continue forever, and their dwelling places to all generations. They call the lands after their own names. Who is that? who's went around the earth conquering particular regions of the earth and calling it after them themselves. And just recently, you've seen it in real time. A couple years ago, the Gulf of Mexico was called the Gulf of Mexico. But Trump, over one night, changed it and said, no, this is the Gulf of America, which America was named after Amerigo Vespucci, which is a so-called white man, Edomite. Who's doing that? All right, let's get this one last one here. I think I might have two more. Ugh. All right, this is Malachi 1 and 4. There's a people who the Lord has a righteous hatred towards, and it's always going to be that way. And if you're with the Lord, you're not going to be against, what he's against. Okay? You're going to be down with his program. Okay? It's Malachi 1 and 4. Whereas Edom saith, we are impoverished, but we will return and build the desolate places, the Renaissance period. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, they shall build, but I will throw down. They shall call them the border of wickedness, which they are. Wherever they go, the conditions of hell and woe follow them. Read Habakkuk 2 and 5. And the people against whom the Lord hath indignation forever. You look up that word indignation is Zion. And it says to denounce, express indignation, to be indignant, to have indignation, abhor, defy. Okay. Let's look up indignation on like the Google. See if they give you a different definition. Anger or annoyance provoked by what is perceived as unfair treatment. Resentment. Okay, yeah. The Lord has a righteous indignation towards the nation of Edom. He created them to be a vessel of dishonor, as the scriptures say. Okay. So now let's read Lamentations 4. And I'll start at 19. It says, our persecutors, the nation of Israel, we have persecutors. Our persecutors are swifter than the eagles of heaven. And what nation of people always compares themselves to the eagle? When the Edomites took over Egypt, they held up that eagle. When they took over, just the Romans themselves, they had that eagle. America, they have that eagle. You look up most Edomite countries, they have some form of an eagle on their emblems. Okay. Lamentations 4:19 again. Our persecutors are swifter than the eagles of heaven. They have pursued us upon the mountains and laid wait for us in the wilderness. The breath of our nostrils is anointed of the Lord, was taken in their pits, of whom we said, under his shadow we shall live among the heathen. Rejoice and be glad, O daughter of Edom, that dwellest in the land of Uz. The cup also shall pass through unto thee. The judgment is going to pass through unto them. And it's going to be double. It's spoken of in Revelation 18 and 6. Thou shalt be drunken and shalt make thyself naked. They're going to be exposed. And you're seeing them being exposed now. The closer we get to the end of their kingdom, they're getting sloppy with a lot of the things that they do. And it's being exposed on all sides, from the lower levels of their own people to the other nations, and especially on the highest level through the prophets. Okay. Verse 22, the punishment of thine iniquity is accomplished, O daughter of Zion. So this is us, finally being released from the punishment that the Lord put us on. He will no more carry thee away into captivity. He will visit thine iniquity, O daughter of Edom. He will discover thy sins. So they got to, a bill they got to pay, and they're trying to evade that with all their strength. But it's going to be to no avail. All right, so Abaratazah, the lesson was edifying. I'm going to give all praises once more to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yabashai, Bahashem, Rakah Kodash. Want to give double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone. Want to say shalom to all the brothers and, of course, the few sisters who are pursuing this truth and sincerity. May the blessing of election be upon your house. Shalom.